Go Gilbert, can you believe it? It's that time for you to elect the mayor of the best town on the planet. We are living in the best country on the planet, and you are living in the best town on the planet. And so, first time ever, we are having a town hall with our 3 mayoral candidates. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hi.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So, wanted to go over the format a little bit for those of you that are watching. We are going to let the candidates introduce themselves, tell you why they are running to be your mayor, and then I have a few questions that I would like answered. And then Go Gilbert, we've got questions from you. So, super excited. Now, one thing I want to say, I have to get my 2 cents in because I love to hear myself talk apparently, but local government, that's where it's at.
It is.
Shame on me for always just following the national news, but now, unlike any other time in history, you got to pay attention to what's going on in your town or city because it's so different, right? Across the country, every town and city is different. So you guys, you have to get involved. You have to go out and vote. And we are here to help you make that informed decision. So without further ado, we are going to go in alphabetical order by first name. Brigette, hi.
Hi, Ann. How are you?
Good. So can you tell us about yourselves, a little bit of your background, and why you are running for mayor of Gilbert?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I'm Brigette Peterson. My family and I moved to Gilbert 25 years ago today. It was 121 degrees when we arrived in town, and we stayed anyway. I went through Gilbert Leadership Class 8, later served on the Gilbert Leadership Board for 7 years, and then I was appointed as a volunteer to the Gilbert Planning Commission for over 14 years. And then I ran for Gilbert Town Council, and I was in my 2nd term on Gilbert Town Council when I resigned to run for mayor. While I was on the council, I served on numerous boards and subcommittees from local to national levels, and I've gone from classroom mom to vice mayor in Gilbert, and I have a strong historical perspective on when, how, and why things were done. I have many relationships built in the community, in the East Valley, and all of Phoenix metro area, and I look forward to building on those as Gilbert mayor.
That is perfect. And I forgot to tell everyone, this is my 10-second warning. Girl, you nailed it. So thank you. I still wanted to wave my flag, though. Okay, Lynn, you're up.
I moved here 20 years ago from the Phoenix area and came down and raised my family here. So Gilbert's my home, raised my 3 daughters here, started a business here in my garage that I've later sold last year after 17 years of growing that. The company was called Ticket Force. So it's a multinational company in the US and Canada, but we're headquartered here in Gilbert. So we're very proud of that. And I was able to navigate through the sale of that business last year. I did both of those things with the help of my husband, Brad, and him right by my side. We've been married for 37 years. We've decided we're going to make it all the way to 75. So we're about halfway there. So that's our biggest goal that we have. But look, I've been a leader in business nationally and both locally. I've served on the Mayor's Business Advisory Council. I'm still on that council now. So I'm able to interact with a lot of business leaders, and I'm bringing in the executive leadership experience that we need today in Gilbert.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Matt.
Okay, I'm Matt Nielsen, and my wife and I have 4 kids. Pardon me. We have 4 kids, and we love it here in Gilbert. Our kids go from 17 years old. She just turned 17 yesterday. Happy birthday. And all the way down to 5, and he's almost 6. He'll be 6 next week. So we're excited for him and his birthday coming up. My background, really quickly, is currently I serve as executive vice president for a charter school services provider. We do back office work for charter schools around the country, like HR and finance and things like that. Prior to that, I worked for myself for 3 years. I founded and operated a management consulting firm for a few years and was working with law firms around the country. And prior to that, in the publishing industry, and long history in the private sector, from construction laborer all the way up to business owner.
Perfect. Thank you. My little second flag. You got a second
really
flag, buddy.
Yep.
I don't know what that means, but it can't be good. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so now we'll whoever wants. So should I do this random order?
Same one.
Same order. We're sticking the same order. Okay. So my next question is, what is, if you had to pick one thing, and I know this is going to be hard, what is the best thing about Gilbert?
Oh,
All right, Brigette.
that's easy. The people. The people in Gilbert are amazing. I formed so many relationships and friendships and business relationships with people in Gilbert. Some people I've known for now almost 25 years, as long as I've been here, and some people I've just met recently. And I don't think you can top the residents that we have in this town. They're so active and so involved in this community, and they make Gilbert the amazing place that it is to live, work, and play on a daily basis.
Awesome. So does that mean you like Gilbert because I'm in it?
Yes, absolutely. You and Mike are at the top of the list. Are you kidding me?
Perfect. Okay, Lynn, you're up. Best thing about Gilbert.
I love Gilbert because I was able to raise my kids here. They graduated from schools here, went away to college, and they wanted to come back and live here. And that's the ultimate dream, when you can build a town where your kids actually want to come back. As millennials, 2 of them have now bought houses here. They work here, and they're doing the fixer-up thing, and it's a ton of fun. But I've got them both within 5 miles of me, and they wouldn't be here if we didn't have some of the amenities that we do here in Gilbert. If we were a sleepy little bedroom community like we were 20 years ago, they wouldn't be here. They love the ability to go to a lot of restaurants. They love downtown. One of them can walk downtown from her home. So building a community where our kids can grow up and then they want to come back here, that's the ultimate win. And that's my favorite thing about Gilbert.
Awesome. Yeah, when you have the kids, like I have older kids now, I want to be in a place where they stay close to mama. For sure. Okay, Matt, you're up.
Yeah, this question was way too easy, and the answer, because the answer is the same for everybody, and it's exactly right. It really is the people. We have such a great group of people, and that's I've said this many times in the past, but it's true. We have nearly 260,000 people in this town, and they're all great. We have so many wonderful people throughout the town, and I'm meeting new ones every day, and we have great conversations about what everybody just loves about the town. And it really comes down to my neighbors, my friends, my family, and we're all here. And so, yeah, that is the right answer. It's the people. Gilbert has a lot of great people.
Awesome. Well, we will get to those hard pressing questions soon. I promise you. No. Okay. So that's what's the best thing about Gilbert. What's Gilbert doing right? Brigette, you're up.
Okay, thank you. You are going to go with me first every time. It's usually different, Lynn. We usually mix it up in a different order.
I said rotate, and Mike says just go in order. Rotate. I'm being told he's in charge.
Go ahead.
I'm fine either way. I wanted to make sure.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll rotate. Lynn, go.
What was the question, Anne?
Sorry.
What is Gilbert doing right?
Well, what we've done right is what we've done in the past 10 years or so, where we have made sure that we built smart and we built for the future. So that's what we're doing right. And that's what my concern is. One of the reasons I'm running for mayor is that what we've done in the past will not hold us through to the future. So that's I'm spinning a little into why I'm running for mayor. It's my concern that we continue to make the right decisions going forward, that we don't rest on what we've been doing. But we've done a lot right in the past 10 years with our development. And that's exactly why so many people have been moving in here. But we'll talk later about things we have to do differently.
That question's coming up. You knew it.
I figured.
Okay, Matt, you're up. What is Gilbert doing right?
Okay, so I actually have a little bit of inside baseball for everyone here. We ran a poll several weeks ago, and several, I mean around 8 weeks ago. And we called a lot of the residents of the town, and we got some data back on this, along with a lot of other questions. And what's interesting is the polling group that we used to take this poll said this was the highest number that they have ever seen on what they call the right track question. And so that was interesting. People in Gilbert love Gilbert because they do feel like a lot is going right. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that what we just talked about, all of us said, small town, small family friendly feel. And that's what I think we're doing a great job at.
Awesome. Okay, so that leads us into the next question. What is...
You skipped
Bridget's turn.
Oh my God.
See, the rotating is really hard, Anne. It's hard.
It is hard. Okay, but I'm glad because you are all on the ball and you will keep me in line. And that should be your first job as mayor. Because
Done.
I'm looking after, let me tell you. Okay, Lynn?
No,
Bridget.
I'm so confused. This is way too complicated. Bridget.
Thank you.
Right. And I think you have words to share on this topic.
I do, and I'm so proud of some of the things that we've done in Gilbert here. I've been part of all of the planning for the past 20 years, and just recently we were named in the #1 city where millennials are buying homes, number 3 best city to buy an affordable family home, 5th best city for first-time home buyers in 2019. I was part of the presentation for best city for business in Arizona. We have Arizona's most admired companies in the town of Gilbert. We've had Arizona's fastest growing city. We're the 2nd safest city in the United States. There's so many things that we are doing right here in Gilbert that I want to be part of to continue as we move forward in this great community. And I know from polls that our firefighters, they're like 90% favorable in the town of Gilbert. Who doesn't love a firefighter though, right?
I mean, I do. Kidding.
Don't tell Mike.
I know, don't tell Mike. Cover your ears. You know what I love is a cowboy, but that's another. Okay, so yes, Gilbert, we can all agree is fantastic. But what would be one thing that you would like to see different in Gilbert? Okay, eeny, meeny, miny, Matt.
Okay, so great question. That's a really good question. I think one thing that we could do a little better job at in the town is just communication. And that can be tough. I get it because we all have lives, right? And we got a lot going on and we don't necessarily always want to hear from our town government as far as what's going on. But I think there are some ways that we can get creative to communicate better and more effectively with our residents, and certainly on particular topics that I have opinions on, and we'll talk about those later. But I think one thing we could do better is just that, to communicate with residents about what's going on, especially at the policy level, to make sure that everyone's aware.
Awesome, perfect. Okay, Bridget.
I think we communicate really well. We have a demographic of 33, average age of 33, and our Gilbert Digital team is kicking butt in that realm of getting the news out. They just put out a new video today about the planning process. But one thing that I think we could do better is, and that video will lead to this, is explaining that planning process to our residents. Most residents don't understand that we have a general plan in place. There's double layer. It's a general plan, and then there's zoning underneath that. And that zoning is set. It's been set for a couple decades in Gilbert, and people don't understand that zoning can't be changed unless the landowner asks to change that zoning. And so the town can't just say, oh, your land is zoned multifamily and we want to change it to commercial. The town can't do that by law. So we have to be very careful about the things that we do and how we do them, and getting the residents involved in that is definitely something that I've been doing for 2 decades here in Gilbert.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, Lynn.
I'm going to say transparency in government, and I mean that in the sense of also really listening to our residents. That's the #1 thing that I hear is people say, "Yeah, you guys have open town meetings, but we come and then we say our thing, and you just do what you're going to do anyway, and you're not really listening to us." And I hear it over and over again, and that's a hard thing to build. That's not communication going out to residents; it's about listening. So I have a lot of ideas about how we can get our council members and me as mayor more into our neighborhoods and our areas, and have more sessions where we're going out and having conversations earlier in the process, where we're actually really listening and having two-way communication, because that's the #1 thing I hear from voters that I'm talking to throughout the last 18 weeks or so is transparency in government, and not just going down a road and doing what we want to do, but bringing the voters and the residents into that loop is really important. And we need to find some new ways to do that.
Yeah, and so it begs the question. We had a Go Gilbert, I call them the citizens of Go Gilbert, ask a question, and this leads me to planning and communication and all of that. So I wanted to stick this in here. So Francis, Patricia, wanted to know, I would like to know what issues Gilbert is facing in the coming years and where they all stand on each issue. Well, that's a lot of issues. So hold on, that's a lot of issues. So most importantly, and I'm sure this is not going to be news to anyone, how many more apartment complexes will be allowed to be built? Because that's one thing that we see a lot, through social media. So I guess give us your opinion on the amount of multifamily housing and kind of your thoughts on that. So Brigette.
Sure, that's great. It's probably one of the most popular questions that I get in office and now that running for mayor too. And there's almost 92,000 single family residences in Gilbert, and 4% of them are multifamily. And there are a lot being built at this moment because the economy was doing so well and the financing for multifamily was easy for these developers to get. So they all sort of came up out of the ground at the same time. They're also in very visible locations. They're around the mall. They're across the street from Topgolf. So they're in very visible locations for all residents to see. I completely understand that. Those have been planned for 2 decades at least in Gilbert. The one across from Walmart has been planned since 2004 when Santan Village went in. It was part of their development plan. So multifamily is always a hot topic for our residents. I'm always listening to that. There will be more because there is land designated for multifamily, unless, like I said in the previous question, those landowners come in and ask to change that zoning to something else. The town can't change it.
Okay, gotcha. So apartments, Lynn, thoughts on apartments?
We have 72 square miles of land here, and about 2% of it is zoned for apartments. So I say kind of this, the thing that I say is, when you're going to look at a car and you're going to buy a Mustang, and then all of a sudden everywhere you look, you see Mustangs. And you don't know, are there more Mustangs on the road? Part of that is a perception, right? And so, yes, we are in a phase where we're building some, but because we see them, then we just think about it all the time. But it's good to know that, we have, our planning has protected us from becoming, New York City or an apartment zone. What I think we can do is work with our developers and make sure we're building more cohesive and some really innovative things that we can do. We can do more mixed use. What we're doing here in Agrotopia is a mixed use development that's going to have apartments with living and retail in the bottom floor. So we can get really creative over the next bit. And you just went dark.
Mm-hmm.
It happens.
We can get very creative in as we reach build out in making sure that we're building smart. We're not just putting in things, because we said that's what we were going to do, but a more community focused and maybe make sure we don't put new ones in clusters, so that we're taking a kind of community view of things.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
Yeah, so I get this question a lot as well, as you might imagine, just like you said you do. And so, I've talked to current council members and I've asked them, how have you dealt with this particular question in the past? And that's been informative for me. And it's helped me to kind of wrap my brain around the issue because, as a resident, I'll say, I understand 100% the need. I mean, I've lived in apartments and it's nice to have apartments to live in when you need that option. On the other hand, I totally understand why people are concerned about more apartments by my house. Well, that's different than apartments out in Gilbert, right? That means less to me than more apartments by my house. And so as I've talked with council members about that, I've just come to adopt a lot of and understand better that when zoning changes come before the council, there's a lot more to consider than just strictly property rights or strictly the desires and wishes of the neighbors or potential new neighbors. And so I'm going to be encouraging would-be developers to get with their potential neighbors earlier on in the process to work through the potential issues. Great question, though.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's, it's something that we get in real estate too. It's, and it's a lot of bringing a lot of people to what's supposed to be like a small town feel. So I think people, obviously worry about that. But thanks for answering that, and glad to know I'm not the only one who gets that question. Okay, so the next one is, if you are elected mayor of this great town, what does Gilbert look like? Does it look the same? Does it look different? Like, give us a visual of the town of Gilbert. Okay, we'll go with Matt.
Okay, great. So my priority for the town of Gilbert is, there are a couple of priorities. So in 5 years, what it looks like is, number one, it will have retained the great qualities that we love about Gilbert. It's still got a family-friendly feel. It still feels like a small town. And it's a great place to raise a family. It's a great place to start a business. We will have improved infrastructure where needed: roads, wastewater systems, water delivery systems, et cetera, et cetera. All of that will be maintained well, updated for the future. We will have also become more efficient in town government and made choices that are smart for taxpayers and for residents. Government will be more transparent and accountable to the people. And those are some of my major priorities going forward. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, Brigette, you're up.
I see us as a thriving community with more businesses like Deloitte moving in, us finishing out the Rivulon area at Pecos and the 202. I see transportation being technology driven and having options where if you come to an intersection and there's nobody going the other way, that light will know that you're there and can change automatically for you. I see us staying on top of all of those technology driven ideas into the future. We are a thriving, booming community that is still growing, and we're going to capture all of that with our amazing residents and all of the new businesses that will be joining us here in the community over the next 5 years.
I like it. Thank you, Lynn.
And you'll be part of that, Ann.
I'm not getting kicked out. That's great.
Nobody's getting kicked out. So there's two things. One is, based on who we elect as mayor, we need some visionary leadership to make sure we're going to need to make some bold decisions over the next few years, because that's going to affect who we are. So whatever we do now is going to determine, I would even go out 10 years, what we do 10 years. And we're going to have some bold leadership in order to do that. We kind of have the everything is okay here in Gilbert mentality, and that doesn't get things done. I've learned that in 20 years of business. You have to be looking ahead, and everything you do now depends what's going on 10 years from now. But I would also like to go out on a limb and say that we'll be a more inclusive community, and that every resident in Gilbert will feel the same sense of welcome and the same sense of safety. I've heard from residents who've told me firsthand that they don't feel the same sense of safety. They don't feel the same sense of welcome. They don't feel the same sense of belonging here. I know we don't want to hear that, but it's true. And so that would be one of the biggest things that I would say is 5 years from now, I would like to see us be even more inclusive and welcoming, so that everybody experiences the Gilbert kindness that we all love.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes, we have everybody, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I don't mess up again.
We're keeping track for you, Ann.
Thank you. You got it. You got to keep me in check.
We got a lot going on here.
Okay, so another question. So from a Go Gilbert member, which kind of ties into what you guys are all speaking about, is from Jason. And he said, many feel Gilbert is losing the small town feeling. It's kind of like that song, You Lost That Love and Feeling. I won't sing it. Okay. What can be done to protect that small town feel? Or maybe you think, forget the small town, we're going big time, which is okay too. Just let us know. So if you want to speak on that, that would be great. Lynn, you're up.
Well, what gives a small town feel is knowing your neighbors, knowing who you can call when you're in trouble. I go out in my neighborhood and I see my neighbor Henry, and he's like, hey, good morning, Lynn. I petted Penny this morning, and that's my cat who wanders around. So those are the kind of things when I can go down to restaurants, and we all experience that. And you know the folks, right? That's not something that you lose. We have 260,000 people, and we have that. So there's nothing magical that's going to happen at 300,000 or at build out at 330, where all of a sudden, you know what, at 325, we lost that small town feel. Something happened that was just too many people. So that's really not what our small town feel is about. It's not something that government can do. You can't govern small town feel, and it's not even something that you build. We can build great infrastructure. We can build great parks. We can build all the great opportunities and amenities here. It's up to the people of Gilbert to assure that we stay friendly and we keep that small town feel.
Awesome. Thank you. Bridget, you're up.
Sure. I have this saying, as big as Gilbert gets, as small as it stays, because I've been here for 25 years and there were about 55,000 people when I moved to Gilbert, and there's 262,000 today. And if you haven't done the census, please do so, because we want to come in first in Arizona. Little plug there for the town. And it is the people that keep that feeling the same way. Lynne's right. I can walk downtown to a restaurant and I know people inside the restaurant. It's that feeling. It's the fact that you can go to a ribbon cutting or a groundbreaking in Gilbert for a new business, and the mayor or members of the council are there. In a community this large, things like that don't happen. You can go to an event in town and the mayor is there. Mayor and I have attended many events. I've attended many events over the years. I was averaging 60 hours of meetings and events a month when I was on the council. So I have been to more events than I can even count. And that's what keeps the small town feel.
Well, and I don't know if people are thinking about this, but when I think of small town, I love it, but there is some drawbacks. Because when you're going to that restaurant, you got to put your face on, right? Because you almost always run into someone that you know, right?
It's true.
And half the time I go out of the house and Mike's like, really? You're going out like that? So maybe, a big town isn't so bad. I'm just kidding. We want the small town, I think.
We can do the best of both worlds. We can do the best of both worlds here in Gilbert.
Exactly. You get the fake eyelashes. That's what you do.
Well, the people that see me down at Bar None know that I do not put my face on before I go down there. So that's in my neighborhood.
Well, there you go. Okay, Matt, let's talk about, do you have to put your face on when you go out?
No, but I'm just naturally like I don't have to do anything. It's
Natural
fantastic.
Beauty. I love it.
Your hair's looking great in COVID too, Matt.
My hair?
Your hair's looking great through COVID.
I work. This doesn't just come by accident. This takes a lot of work.
And there's a nice shine to it.
So, I think a lot of what's been said is true. I think that there are some things, however, that we can do to help to retain that small town feel that we love, and those positives that we love about Gilbert. And some of those, are a function of the general plan. As boring as that sounds, but I think it's true. That a lot of thought's been put into the general plan for over the course of decades, right? So what that does is it creates kind of small communities within the larger town, and I think to the extent that government can continue to facilitate that small town feel, it should. Because that's why we're here. We love Gilbert because we love our communities and we love our neighbors. And so to the extent that we can, we should. And that's certainly a priority for me.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so speaking of our Gilbert small town, if you had to pick one other U.S. town or city, who would you compare Gilbert to? So think of another city or town that you've been to, just because I think Gilbert's so different, and maybe people from other parts of the country are moving in. How would you compare Gilbert to maybe another town or city that you've been in? Or maybe one that you look up to, who you think, you know what, that's where we're going to be when we hit 500,000, something like that.
I have an answer for the Heritage District. Last April, I visited Savannah, Georgia, and it really made me think about what our Heritage District could potentially build into, maybe with a boutique hotel and the restaurants and the shops and all of the tourists just spending time there, walking around and having a coffee. And I thought it was a perfect example of where I think we have the potential to go with the Heritage District.
Well, so I just want to follow up on that really quick. So what are your ideas? Because I think that, I know that there's nothing retail, like boutique in downtown. And I know retail in and of itself is becoming, passe or whatnot, but how do we encourage businesses to come, like small boutique type businesses or retail to the Heritage District?
The retail will follow the people being there. And I know we think there's a lot of people down there already because of the restaurants, and you can go and put your name in and you have to wait 45 minutes or an hour, or did pre-COVID. But there's still not enough people on a regular basis, day in and day out, to support the retail yet. I think that the 10 acres at the corner of Gilbert and Juniper, when that develops, that will bring more people and retail and people that are downtown on a very regular basis every day, day in and day out.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, Matt, what city?
So another town or city in the U.S. So I have to say, we don't plan to move anywhere because we like it here. And so I don't know that I could say, what do I look forward to, or what other town could we work to become more like? I think we're pretty good. And I love Gilbert, and I love a lot of what Gilbert has. So I wouldn't say that, we need to become like someone else, because we're so unique in a lot and great in a lot of ways that I think we need to keep that. I would say, if I had to compare it to a town, I would say, I've lived in Sacramento area for some time earlier in life, and Folsom, California. So we're famous for our prison in Folsom, but that's not all we're famous for. It's a fantastic little town, but I think that area of Sacramento is comparable, but still Gilbert beats Folsom.
Yeah, well, of course. Of course. Awesome. Okay, Lynn, town or city?
Yeah, you know what? In the last number of years, I've traveled to every major and most secondary major cities in the U.S. Very fortunate to be able to do that. Always bring back a piece of what I see there. And a couple come to mind. One's Boise, Idaho, and one's Knoxville, Tennessee. And those are both just because of the quaint downtown that they have. And I'll tell you, I'm going to use this opportunity to throw something in that I miss in Gilbert, and I notice in almost every other city, and that is our display of public art. And so when you're in downtowns, no matter what size, small town, whatever, you almost always see displays of public art. Now we've got 18 murals now, and we're starting to get those, but a lot of folks don't know where they are. And so I would really like to bring that back and see Gilbert really grow in its display of public art. And I think that would be the cherry on top for us.
Okay, so what would you want painted in downtown?
Well, it doesn't have to be painted. I like people, actually, and I like things that would show the history, and I like the most recent one that was just put up down there. But it can be sculptures, it can be things for kids to climb on, it can be pieces of art in the park. And I think anything with our farming and our train history would be awesome.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so next question is on the screen. I don't have to look down. So how do you know? It's hard to get good help around here. Okay, so we are, I don't know if you've noticed, living in such a polarizing time. What are your ideas to bring people together? Is there anything that we all can agree on? It's kind of a tough question. Let's go with Lynn.
Okay. It's not a hard question for me, Anne, because it's what I've been doing my whole life, is bringing people together around common ideas and common goals. So we find what we want. If you talk to people, we all want the same things. We want to have a safe community. We want to have a strong economic future. We want to feel good about where we live. We all want those same things. We want great schools. We literally all want the same stuff. And so it's just about the method of how we get there and what we do. And that's really where people have our differences. It's important because what happens in the polarizing is that we have ideologies coming into our town council. We have idealistic views that don't take into consideration what's the best for the whole community. And that's where we really get so polarized. And so I would love the opportunity to bring in my skills that I've built in business to be able to bring people together and find common ground and negotiate and battle it out if you need to. But we can, at the end of the day, focus on what we have in common.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. You're up.
Yeah, this is a great question. So my undergraduate degree is in communications. Interpersonal and small group communications was kind of my emphasis. And my master's degree is in negotiation and dispute resolution. And so my entire education all the way through grad school was really focused on understanding better what people prioritized and why. And you know what? It's interesting through all of my studies and all of my practice. I'm also a certified mediator. And so what's interesting is through all of my experience, I've come to better understand, because they pounded this into your head in school, but you don't really see it until you actually experience it. People really want to be heard. They want to, and they want to feel like they're being heard, not just be heard, but feel that way. And so to me, I think that a lot of what's important on this particular issue is listening and understanding.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, Bridget.
Well, the one thing that we can all agree on is that Gilbert's the best place in the world to live, right? So let's start there, and let's bring people together on some sort of a group, like a civility committee, perhaps, or our human relations commission back. And let's make sure that every aspect of the community is represented on that committee, and we sit down and have those talks. I'm a collaborator. I've been working with people in this town for more than 20 years, and we have come together on every single issue that you can think of, whether it was bonds, taxes, the Human Relations Commission came out of a gang issue back in Gilbert 20 years ago. And I think it's time to bring that group back, and let's sit down around the table and see what we can do to make sure that everybody's talking the same way and talking about Gilbert the same way. There is a point where ideology has to be put to the side. Let's look at things logically instead of ideologically, and bring everybody to the table to continue Gilbert being the best place to live.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so the next question is, if you just kind of had a free reign, you didn't have to get anything approved or passed, or you could make one decision as soon as you get into office, like what would it be? You have to pick one thing. What is the first thing you would do? Meaning, it doesn't have to go through town council, anything like that. But if they said you can do anything you want with Gilbert, pick one thing. First thing you do in office, what would it be? Oh, and thank you, Chuck, for that question. Okay, so let's go with Matt.
All right. So I would want to go through. I would want to go through and just meet every single staff person at the town. That's what I would do first. I would walk through the town offices and say, I want to just sit down with you and chat for a few minutes. And I mean every person, all of the 1,400 employees. I would want to sit down with them and talk with them, and better understand what their concerns are and what they have going on. So to me, that's a big priority. I want to make sure that I understand things before I jump in and start making decisions, because it's, you can make a lot of mistakes that way. So I want to really deeply understand what's going on at every single level from the perspective of staff members.
Gotcha. So just to follow up on that, is there something that you would do? Like, would you, what's the thing? Would you say, I'm going to be sure that there is a new Mexican restaurant on every corner?
I don't know how I could disagree with that goal. I mean, I love Mexican food, so why not? Yeah. Okay, good one, Ann. We'll change my answer out for yours.
Okay, perfect. That's what I'm here for. Okay, awesome. Okay, Bridget, one thing you could, or maybe it's something you sign into law.
Oh. Well, you can't do that without a majority vote. So let's go with something that if I could create anything in the town of Gilbert and money wasn't an object and I could just make it happen in one day, right? Yes. It would be the Domestic Violence Center in Gilbert to provide the resources to our families that they need, because we have situations here in Gilbert and people don't like to talk about them, but they're out there. And domestic violence has been on the rise. And as our population grows, we need to make sure that we have those resources for our residents. And I would make sure that they have those resources as soon as we possibly could. I need to make sure that those residents aren't pushed off to other organizations or out to other cities and towns to receive the resources that they need. So magic ball, that's what I would do.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, Lynn?
Well, Chuck, I'm not going to answer what I want to do. I'm going to tell you what I will do and what the first focus is going to be. And that's going to be setting up a small business assistance center for our businesses. So we're all talking here tonight how much we love Gilbert and how great everything is. Let's not forget that we're in the middle of a pandemic, that we have gyms that have been closed twice and don't know when they're going to reopen. We have restaurants open at minimal capacity, struggling to make it. We have people that are furloughed that don't know if they're going to get a check in about 3 days. So there are some hard times that we're facing, and we have simply not done enough for our small businesses. So I'll bring my business experience, I'll roll up my sleeves, I'll get to work on day one and open up a center that will staff with business leaders and volunteers, and we'll get to work helping these folks find the help that they need and make sure we get the aid in. And we'll set up a communication channel for them as well, so that they're not alone, that they're there and they've got the help that they need to make sure they not only survive, but thrive all the way through 21.
Awesome. Okay, so a new question, but it kind of goes into what you're talking about with small businesses. So how do you differentiate between the sanctity of personal freedoms and the health and welfare of the public good? Because that is another thing that, how do you, what am I trying to say? How do you how do you really, help me? I can't even put it in words because this is hard, and this is what we're hearing in the public. So, and we saw the governor who really gave the mayors all the power, right, to kind of enact what they thought was in the best welfare of the town, of the citizens, and therefore affecting the businesses. So how do you gauge that? Lynn, go for it.
It's not that hard, because what you do in your home and what you do in your personal life, as it doesn't affect the health and well-being of other people, is up to you. But we all have seatbelt restrictions. You can't talk on the phone when you're driving in the car. We have speed limits. We have all those things. And a lot of those things, when they first came out, folks were like, you can't tell me to wear a seatbelt in my car. That's my car. And even in that example, we're still not necessarily affecting someone else. We just are going to die if we hit another car. Now, speeding is another example. Don't you have a right to drive a car that whatever speed you want, it'll go 80. Why can't I drive 80? Because it's not safe for other people. So this is another one of those things where the messaging has come for the purpose of getting folks divided and polarized. And when you have health officials saying, I assume we're talking about masks and all those sorts of things, when you have health officials saying this keeps the community safe, if you don't want to wear masks, you can stay home. But when you're in a community and you have the opportunity to affect other people, and this has hurt our businesses by folks thinking that personal liberty means when I go in public, I don't need to wear a mask. So it's about what you do at home and what you do when you're for the good of the community when you're in the public.
Okay, thank you, Brigette.
Sure, thanks. The governor, I think, made the right choice by pushing it off to towns and cities, because there are 91 different towns and cities in the state of Arizona, and they all are quite different in shape, size, form, demographic, everything. Some are quite small, some are quite large. And so I don't think an one size fits all would have worked for the whole state. So I thought that was wise of him. And it comes down to the businesses were looking for some relief from their local government as to how to recommend these things to their patrons as they come inside. So this really did help the businesses out in the long run. And I don't like a mandate. I probably wouldn't have voted if it was a mandate with enforcement, but it was a very strongly worded recommendation that you all wear masks when you go out in public. I've been wearing a mask since day one, and I continue to wear a mask whenever I go out. I visit lots of businesses around town, and I think it's just the right thing to do. So as a person in this community, I want to do what's best for the people around me. And as the mayor and town council, they needed to do what was best for the businesses that were reaching out to them looking for some assistance.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, Matt, you're up.
Yeah, so I don't support the mask mandate. I think that personal liberty should always, it certainly in this case, absolutely takes precedent. Now, does that mean that everyone that doesn't support the mask mandate is a science denier, that they hate people, that they don't want to take care of their neighbor, or that they don't love them? No, that's not what it means. What it means is that we're Americans and we're free. And when we are given good information, then we can make decisions for ourselves. And typically what we do in those kinds of situations is we ask our medical providers, medical professionals. We talk with our family and friends about their positions and their opinions. And then we form our own opinions and then make decisions for ourselves. So I don't support the mask mandate, but that's only because I don't believe that it's the proper role of government to tell us what we should be wearing when we go out in public. And so I think that's maybe the essence of the question here, but I'm happy to talk about other pieces of that later.
Yeah, for sure. I know with 1 minute, not a lot of time. But one thing I will say, so the governor passed down to mayors the mask mandate. So, but he didn't pass down the mandate on businesses operating, restaurants operating at a minimal capacity or gyms closing. So if you were the mayor, what say you? What if he said it's up to you about businesses either staying open, closing, or operating at a minimum capacity? So now you're in the hot seat.
Yeah.
What would you do?
So,
yeah, Matt, if you want to go first, that'd be great.
Oh, sure. Sorry, I thought that was right at me, but yes, I will take it. So, our business owners, our small business owners, our operators, managers, store managers, they're smart people. And and this is what I wish honestly would have happened from the beginning. I wish that what we would have done is we would have said, look, there's this dangerous virus out there, and all of us need to be careful. And if you do these things, then you're less at risk of contracting the virus. Now, you're free to do what you want, but these are and then we say, business owners, if you do these things, you are less at risk. If you sanitize things on a regular basis, if you require I'm all for business owners requiring their patrons to do things because they come in, no shirt, no shoes, no service. Pass it down to the business owners. They have the right to refuse service. So that's what I wish we would have done.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, Lynn, you're up.
Well, this is a global pandemic of which we've not seen for 100 years. So we don't know anything. We're smart people, but we have no idea how this thing's going. And we do have data available, and we have other countries, other states that have seen what happens when you don't have mandates and when you don't have strong guidelines. So I think the question was, what would I do as mayor? And I would follow data. That's been the failure of leadership from the governor on down, is that there's other cities and states where you open up your city or your state or your county based on when you reach certain numbers of case levels. Right. And so you have something to go by rather than going, wonder what we should do. Well, seems like a good idea to do this. Maybe we'll try that. And that's kind of what we're seeing with the schools right now. We've got all these options. Maybe we'll try that and see if it works. And what's important is that we look at experts and we make data-based decisions, because just none of this has been experienced before. And we're playing with people's lives, and we're playing with people's businesses when we're guessing. So as mayor, I would make data-based decisions with health officials and follow what we know works to get this disease under control.
Thank you, Brigette.
We don't know what data the governor's seeing. We don't know what data the mayor's seeing. And as sitting here today, I don't know what any of that data is that they've seen, but I would want to see the data for sure. But I really strongly don't agree with just shutting everybody down with a blanket shutdown. I think that they should have been given options as to how they can stay open, if they can stay open at a limited capacity. Our restaurants were doing it. They were doing 50% before the governor even mandated it, because it was put out as a recommendation. And I went to a restaurant the day before, and every other table was blocked off. They couldn't be used. The restaurants are being extra careful, but we have shut down these people's livelihoods, and they're still paying their rent. They're still paying employees. In some cases, they're still getting deliveries to those locations, and they need help. They need a date when they can open back up at this point, and tell them how to do that. Let's tell them how to do that. And as mayor, that's what I would want to see for my businesses.
Awesome. Okay, so another follow-up for all of you. We're talking about what's going on in Gilbert, trying to keep it small, trying to support small businesses. So not sure if any of you guys have been watching the news, but what are some things that we can do, because you never say never, to prevent some of the craziness that's going on in the bigger cities like Chicago and Seattle and all of those things? What are some things as mayor you could do to be sure that we all remain safe, right? So I would love to hear from Brigette.
Sure. I think it's very important for us to stay on top of the training for our public safety. Our police officers definitely need to stay on top of that training. They've already showed what they do for policies and procedures. They've shared all of that online. If people want to see that, it's on the Gilbert website. Just look for the police department. It's all there under their policies. We need to make sure that they're staying active in the community like they do. Our police department works so well with our residents and vice versa. Our residents work so well with our police department. Every event that I have attended with PD, coffee with the cop, pancakes with the popo, froyo with the 5-0, the residents come out in droves because they want to meet with them. They love our police department so much that they had to put somebody on, they had to sign somebody up to actually sign up all of the deliveries that were being made to our police department recently. So I think that shows that our community is behind them, and I hope they know that the police department's behind them, but we can always do more, we can always train more, we can always be better, and that's what I would want to see.
Thank you. Okay, Lynn, you're up.
Well, people are in the streets by and large peacefully right now. So we're seeing some unrest because there's always that fringe of folks that come in whenever there's protests, and they find them and they go in and they disrupt that. Peaceful protests are an important freedom that we have in America that we need to protect. So that's not what this is about. And folks need to understand that the right to peacefully protest is very, very important to our freedom here in America. And our police understand that. In fact, at the Black Lives Matter March was a great example of our Gilbert Police Department standing aside and escorting the Black Lives Matter March down Gilbert Road. And it was beautiful. And that's how it's to be done so that it can be done safe. I think what we're missing is that we need to build some coalitions in our community for the folks that don't feel like they have a voice, the folks that don't feel like they're being heard. And if we can really build community coalitions among those folks that are going to end up perhaps being marginalized and wanting to get on the streets, we can start to work there before it has to get to that point where it's escalated.
Thank you. Okay, Matt, you're up.
Thank you. Yeah, I think Chief Solberg has really done a great job, and all of his staff, all of the police force have done a fantastic job over the past several weeks, where we have seen a lot of crazy camera footage from around the country and of course around the world as well. But we're very fortunate to have such a well-trained, respectful, and well-respected police force. And so I think if we can continue doing what we're doing in the police department, and certainly we can all stand, I'm sure, to do a little more in just mutual respect and working toward that among ourselves as citizens. But I think if we keep going the way that we're going, we'll do pretty well. They've done such a great job so far.
Awesome. Thank you. So switching gears from kind of safety, but something else that's very important in the government's role is schools. So we have a question from Susie Jackson, and this is what she says, or this is what she asked. She says, what is your opinion on the gazillion charter schools in Gilbert and how they profit of tax dollars, specifically how PPP was distributed? I believe that there was an article that just came out that she's referring to. So I would love, we are a different type of town and actually state because there are so many school choices between charter and private and public. So her question is specifically on charter schools. So Matt, do you want to answer that one?
I'm the pro here, so yeah, let me talk about it.
That's why I said right to you, buddy.
Do I get any more than 30 seconds? Because I could go all day.
I'll give you a minute.
1 minute? Okay. No, anyway. I'll try to go fast. So the gazillion charters, I love that. So here's the deal with charter schools in Gilbert. A little over 1 in 4 children in Gilbert attend a charter school. More than that, if you just start stacking up, so you've got 1 in 4 that go to a charter school. You've got another population that homeschool, a very active and wonderful homeschool group, lots of groups actually.
Well, no, not to interrupt, but we all are homeschooling right now.
Yeah, well, here we are, right? COVID. So, so charters plus homeschools plus, of course, private schools. We have some fantastic private schools, even here in Gilbert. And then you have kids that are on ESAs that participate in the Empowerment Scholarship program. And so, we're so fortunate to live in Arizona where we have so many choices. And the fact that we have so many families in Gilbert that are exercising those choices, and not just outside of district schools, by the way. We have intra and inter district school choice, which means that if I'm zoned for one school, I can go to another one if I want to in the same district or in another district. And what a blessing. How fortunate we all are to live in a state that has laws in place that allow parents to choose. And that is what I'm all about. I don't care if you love a district school. I love that you love that district school. If you love your charter school or private school, I love that that's working for your kids. And that is what my priority is kids first.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. And I went over a little bit. So you guys, yeah.
I'll slip you the $20 later.
Yeah, perfect. So Bridget and Lynn, you get extra time too. So Bridget, go for it.
Well, the reason that there are charter schools in Gilbert is because there's choice and there's supply and demand. People want them here, so they're going to build here. The other thing that people don't understand is that schools and churches can build on any zoning category in Gilbert, so they don't have to come in for all of those public meetings and everything that everybody else does to change the zoning to put a school on them. They're allowed to go on any zoning, and that's Arizona state law. As far as the funding goes, I know very little about it. I haven't really been paying attention since mayor and council don't have any purview over schools in Gilbert. I guess the one thing that I would say that since charter schools are public schools and receive state funding, that I wouldn't have included them in the programs like PPP. I think that should be for the businesses out there that need those funds that don't have funds coming from someplace else.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, Lynn.
Hi, Susie, and thanks for that question. And I think I'm not sure anybody talked about profiting off of tax dollars. So I will answer that. I was around in Arizona, very involved in education. My kids were young when the charter school law first was coming through. And the idea was that it gave a choice to folks and maybe more specialized, a different type of education. One size doesn't fit all, those types of things. My daughter went to an arts school. Was one of the early charter schools in downtown Phoenix, and it was completely different and met her needs for a moment there for a couple of years. But it was never designed that folks could profit off of it. And that was never supposed to be. So I do have an issue with for-profit and the amount of profits. And we all know the stories that have happened here with some of our local charters making big money and what's happened. And that's really down at the state level. So I think what's important at a local level is that we work with our schools to make sure the quality of education, that the charter schools are held to the same standard so that every Gilbert child, whether they're at one of our 3 public districts, a private school, or a charter school that should not be making a profit, but that they're getting the same quality of education. We hold them to that high standard. PPP funds, there's not a lot we could do about that. I have to look at it that if they had trouble paying their employees, that's what that was about. And that was keeping employees of all the businesses possible to keep them employed. And that's what PPP was about. So I can give a pass on that.
Awesome. Okay, so you guys, that's an hour.
Wow.
Was that the most funnest hour of your lives?
It was the best.
Well, but I would be remiss if I didn't give you guys the opportunity to put your 2 cents in. Okay, so we'll go through and maybe if it's interesting, I'll give you 2 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. If it's interesting, I'll give you more time. No. So from any of the topics that we talked about today or anything that you really want to get across, to the good people of Go Gilbert. Just a closing statement. Anything that you are passionate about, want to share? Does that sound like a plan?
It does.
Okay, and Mike's going like this, 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Is that better, Matt? Is that better?
That
You're
works
a little
great.
concerned about the 1 minute, and I
was
it.
worried, but
2 minutes.
2 will work.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm closing my eyes and I'm pointing to the screen. I think that doesn't work. Okay. So let's go back how we started. Bridget, you have 2 minutes. The floor is yours, and I will keep my mouth shut.
I won't take 2 minutes, Anne. But first, thank you for you and Mike putting this together and bringing the three of us together. This is the first time that the three of us have actually been together for a forum. I missed one last week because I had an emergency. Things come up, and sometimes you just can't avoid them. And Lynn and I did one before for Unite with Education. I just want to say that during my time on the Gilbert Town Council, I brought into my knowledge base and formed relationships with other council members and mayors around the valley. I made a point to serve in a full-time capacity, attending an average of 60 hours of meetings and events per month. I was there when we voted to pay off bonds early, saving taxpayers millions of dollars. I've made many impacts across Gilbert over the years. I have a long record of leadership in Gilbert that I'm proud of. We need a mayor that can hit the ground running on day one. I'm the only candidate running that has served in elected office. If you want a mayor with passion and dedication, vote Brigette Peterson for mayor. If you love Gilbert, then I am the proven choice.
Awesome. Okay, so I have to do a follow-up. Explain the purple.
The purple's just my favorite color, and started with my first campaign back in 2014. Everybody said to me, "You're insane for using purple because it's very divisive when it comes to politics." And I stuck with it. And now if I show up in an event someplace and I'm not wearing purple, people ask me, "What's wrong? Like, is something wrong? Are you not feeling well? How come you're not wearing purple?" So it just has kind of caught on.
Perfect. Well, that's true because red and blue, together.
Yes,
purple.
exactly.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. What are you doing?
I know.
Awesome. Okay, Lynn, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks, Go Gilbert. Thank you, Mike and Anne, for running this. It's been awesome. Thank you to the community that's watching tonight and the many more of you that will be watching later. It's incredible of you to take your time to give some opportunity and look at who is going to be the best leader for Gilbert going forward. As a voter, you have an opportunity to actually hire someone. You're putting a person in the right seat. That's what you're doing when you're voting. And in business, we talk about putting people in the right seats, people that have the right skill set for a job. So you can have a great skill set for one job, and someone can move you to another job, and that may not be right for you. And what we need right now is, as unprecedented times that we're in, we need some unprecedented leadership. And we need leadership that has visionary, bold, independent experience to be able to take us forward. So again, we talked a lot tonight, Gilbert, about everything we love about our town and how wonderful our town is. And that is all 100% true. If we want to keep that, we need bold new leadership to take us forward and make sure that in 5 and 10 and 15 years, we still have that same quality of life. And one thing I know from 20 years of business, you don't move forward by doing things the same. You don't move forward by pulling back. You move forward with clear vision, making bold choices, and being able to adapt as you go. So that's the kind of leadership I'm bringing. That's why I'm running for mayor here in Gilbert. And you have the opportunity as voters here on August the 4th, on or before. I would love your vote to put me in the right seat as your next mayor. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Lynn. Okay, Matt. 2 minutes. I know you can do it.
All right. I'm going to try. I'm going to try real hard. Thank you. And yes, thank you so much, Anne and Mike. We really appreciate you putting this together. It's been great. And it really did go by fast. That was super fast, 1 hour. So a couple of things. I just want to mention that I am the candidate that you want to vote for if your priorities are A, individual liberty, B, transparency in government, and 3, efficient government. Over the past 2 decades in the private sector, I've held positions for everything from, as I mentioned earlier, from construction laborer on a job site all the way up to business owner and executive. I also founded a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to children and education. And that's something that I operate today as board chair. my advanced degrees in negotiation and dispute resolution. That all of those things have prepared me and have formed my outlook on what good government is. And in America, as Americans, good government is small government, it's accountable government, and it's efficient government. And it's also responsive and transparent government. So thank you so much again. I sincerely appreciate the time. Everybody tuning in, Ann and Mike, awesome. You did a great job. And please, regardless of who you vote for, please vote. It's so important that you make your voice heard. Tuesday is primary election day. You can walk in your ballot up until tomorrow, or you could actually walk it until Friday. You can mail it in as late as tomorrow. So anyway, find a polling place and vote.
Perfect. Okay. Yes. And you were talking about that, and I got butterflies in my stomach. Like, I'm so nervous, right? So I can only imagine how you guys feel. But Gilbert is an amazing town, and that is such a good point. In order to keep that small town feel, to keep the community, you guys have to go out and vote, right? You have to go out and vote, make your voice heard. Obviously, now, unlike any other time, get involved in your local government. Right? I can't say that enough, because it's important, and we are not like any other city in the country. So let's keep it. That was my 2 minutes.
Awesome.
And so I don't know if you noticed, but there's comments coming in on the screen. People are commenting. People have questions. So will you guys do me a favor and comment on some of those? Maybe when you're, have some extra time, talk to the people. Talk to your voters, talk to your constituents, or future constituents, I should say. Speaking of communication, because that's so important to us with doing Go Gilbert, is to be another line of communication. And we love interaction. We love the good, the bad, and the ugly. So if you guys can check that out. If you want to share this forum, you can actually go to Go Gilbert business page and you can share it. It's open to everyone. Nice. And you guys are amazing. Thank you for taking the time. We really appreciate your involvement and just wanting to get involved, because something tells me you're not doing it for the money.
No.
And I did that because I Googled it. I was like, oh, dang. Sorry about that. So I'm just kidding. I mean, it's kind of true. But, Mesa mayor, they make a lot of, anyway, I digress. Mesa. Just kidding. So anyway, thank you again. You guys have a great night. Tuesday.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye, everybody.